Hey everyone, Valerie here, and I am doing a interview today with my friend Beverly Smith, who is a career coach, and she is the first in my series of Your Someday Dreams, where I am talking to people about where they were and where they are now and how they got there. So we are streaming live through StreamYard on LinkedIn and in my Facebook group on my Facebook page, on Instagram and on YouTube. So for anybody watching us on Facebook, StreamYard does need permission for us to see your name. So if you want to just go to StreamYard, I'll put the link in just a second, just so if you make a comment, we don't see you as Facebook user, we actually see your profile picture and your name. So I just wanted to welcome everybody and introduce Beverly, and I'm going to let her tell you who she is and what she does, and then we'll go from there. So go ahead, Beverly.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Valerie. My name is Beverly Smith, and I currently help mid-senior and executive level professionals with their resumes, with their LinkedIn branding, with their job search and interview strategy,
Mhm.
all the things to help them so that they can land the career of their dreams.
Awesome. So I put a little teaser in, Beverly, because I know your story, but I wanted people to get interested. So the teaser that I put in for LinkedIn was, would you move to a farm? So I wanted to put in a little bit longer one, but it should say, would you move to a farm without a farmhouse? Which makes it even more interesting. So tell us where you live and a little bit about where you were and how you got there.
Hey, and I'll add to that one to even make it even further interesting. Would you move to a farm without a house and without running water? Because I without running water in my house, but we had water out here. It just wasn't in the building where we slept. Okay. So how did I get here? So my husband and I actually made our very first pivot in the mid 90s. He had been in retail with Walmart, had really climbed the ladder very quickly in his career, done very well. And about that time, if you were around back then, Walmart was going to 24-hour stores, and he had gone all out west, opened several stores out in the western part of the United States. And the 24-hour thing after Mr. Sam died really changed the dynamic of his job. And we just kind of up on a whim, I guess we're good at this. When you hear the rest, quit and decided there were some other things that I will not go into, but that prompted that decision. And we thought we were going to stay in Albuquerque until 3 days later, we found out we were expecting our son. And so we decided we would move back either to Arkansas or Texas, and basically just almost pretty much flipped a coin and went to Arkansas. That's where he's from. And so we ended up opening a staffing service when our son was 12 weeks old. And we were in the staffing industry for just a little over 27 years. And we abruptly pivoted the end of the spring or end of May. Well, I guess probably more like the end of June of 2022, sold everything and moved to the farm.
Oh my goodness. So what was the catalyst for the pivot?
So the staffing industry, the staffing and recruiting industry can be very stressful and overwhelming. And we had actually built a really successful, um, multi seven figure business, and many employees working for us both internally and then at our clients. And my husband burned out probably a lot sooner than I
Mhm.
did, though I think we both were on the burnout phase, and he began to pursue some other interests. And I continued to stay on to run the business because I thought that's what I had to do. Uh,
Mhm.
I just really was not willing to entertain going to work for anyone. I did not at the time, we kind of felt like our son would be our exit strategy. Unbeknownst to us, he was really not interested in the business. So he did work for us. He and his wife both worked for us for about 5 years. And so my husband briefly came back in during COVID, helped us navigate that, went back to his other things that he was pursuing at the time. And then in 2022, I just really, I, I was kind of at the end of my rope. I really was not happy. And we always had this dream of moving out here to the farm, but the only way I could see it happening is in the very traditional sense of you go and you spend, 12 months getting your business ready to sell, and then you spend 12 months trying to sell it, and then you take your money and you go.
Mhm.
And you may have to stay on and help run the business, those kinds of things. So that didn't the only thing appealing of that to me was the money. Other and
Mhm.
all sounded good. So my husband made this audacious suggestion in April of 2022 that I just close the doors. And I got really mad and said, I don't quit. I will do that. And so in June, I came back to him and said, look, just come back on board. We'll get this thing where we want it. We'll sell in 2024. We'll move to the farm, blah, blah, blah. He said it again. Let's just close the doors. This time, being a believer, I had been actually studying Isaiah, and it talks about God's ways being higher than
Mhm.
ours, having eyes to see and ears to hear. And I just heard what he was saying differently.
Mhm.
Uh, there was a lot more, obviously, to the conversation than that, but I realized we had what we needed and we could step out there and make this transition. And so we put it out there to the world. This is what we were going to do. We worked with a back office company who came along, lo and behold, and said, well, you can sell your book of business and we can facilitate that for you. So we ended up selling after all. And
You
that
thought you were gonna close it, and then you ended up selling it.
so it's so amazing when you step out in faith, you
Mhm.
follow those nudges that God gives you, and He starts opening doors I had never seen before. And so there we go. We had a buyer, ended up being someone that we'd known for many years. We really admired, and that deal went down in about 2 or 3 weeks. I mean,
Oh
we were
my goodness.
out of this business. Um, Around July 4th of that year. And at the same time, we had a real estate agent that is a very dear friend of ours that we just kind of started asking questions. She never listed our house. She said, I know someone that would be the perfect buyer. He paid a full price offer, happened to be her brother in law wanting to move back into Arkansas, who could not close on his house before November
Mhm.
because he had capital gains on his house in Tennessee. And so he said, y'all can stay till October, which was the time we needed to take the shop we had started building that spring and convert it into a place to live. So I actually live in a barn dominium, so to not the fancy HGTV ones that you see. It's kind of very utilitarian.
So I love what Beth Moore says: the more you believe, the more you'll see, and the more this you see, the more you'll believe.
So
So it sounds like, and I think in a lot of ways, you and I are a lot alike because my husband's a visionary. He gets these big picture visions and stuff, and he's been an entrepreneur his entire life. And I'm like, okay, that's a great idea. And I've got to lay out a scope and sequence of how it's going to work. It's like, and I give him all the objections and everything else. And I have to make sure I don't come across as, negative. But I'm
uh,
like, okay, I want to take this big picture and see how we can actually make it work. But that's one of the things that that comes to me over and over again. It's like, I can't even imagine some of the stuff that could happen. And I need to be able to be flexible enough to allow for that and not be so in control of everything that I don't allow for that. Does that make sense? So, let me ask you, going back just a little bit with the staffing company, this basically local? Were you doing things virtually online or just, locally?
it was local, and at one point we had an office in two different cities.
Hmm.
The our satellite office was about 45 minutes away,
Mhm.
in another town, and we had some business that had warranted that, and so yeah, we did business locally in the Central Arkansas area.
Okay. So like during 2020, what happened with that, with people's offices closing and the stay home orders and everything? How did
So
that affect you?
So Arkansas really remained open. There was not the same moratorium on businesses that a lot put out, and we kind of self-policed ourselves.
Hmm.
We right off the bat deemed ourselves essential because
Hmm.
we have a lot of clients that were making things that are, essential. They
Manufacturers and whatnot.
manufacture.
Hmm.
We have one. You're in Arizona. They manufacture the filters for the swamp coolers.
Hmm.
And their other office actually manufactures the swamp coolers, which nobody here knows anything about what it is because it's
Those are essential for us.
humidity out here. But having lived out west, I was like, oh, I know what that is. Yeah,
Hmm.
very, very important. So, yeah, we had a lot. That was just one of our clients.
Hmm.
We had clients in food production and just those kinds of things. So we deemed ourselves essential. My staff did not want to work from home. There were some of our competitors that did work remotely, but we all just chose. Half of us were related anyway, so it didn't matter. Um, and then the rest of them were kind of like, okay, we're just we're not buying into this, and we just wanted to work. We did have some abbreviated hours, which was kind of cool. We would be done by 2:30 or 3.
Hmm.
So that was kind of fun, actually. So yeah, um, and we actually, after about that initial 6 weeks, when they kind of were like, "Ah," the states that did stay open were all like, yeah, okay, we're done.
Hmm.
We really picked back up as far as
Hmm.
our level of business. And by the following year, we were actually well above
Yeah.
what we've done even the year in 2019. It was amazing.
So it sounds like for your husband, maybe he was thinking, what's next? Because coming from the retail training career, and and that's, I have a background in that too, which is funny. I didn't know that about him. um, but it sounded like he started being prompted to think about what's next before you did, because you were kind of like, okay, this is stable, it's safe. So did you ever think about that, especially like when your son said he wasn't really interested in taking over this business for you? Did you start thinking about possibly what's next, or was it just going to be, until something makes me change, we'll just keep going on this trajectory?
I think at that, when we realized he wasn't interested, and they actually had begun expressing interest of moving on and doing other things. And for me, it was such a blessing having him and his wife in the business, because we did start it when he was so young, and I felt like I gave up so much of
Hmm.
his early years that it was very redemptive to have him work for me in those last 5 years, which is, I also really, I know this is not really answering your question, kind of going a different direction, but really
Hmm.
played into us knowing each other as adults, which was
Yeah.
really cool, and really understanding too why he was not interested in taking it to the next level. So when he did say that, that's really when I began to explore the traditional, how do we exit rep,
Hmm.
and how
Hmm.
fit, and those types of things. So that seed was planted for me. I just have a very, kind of like you were saying, everything needs to follow the plan.
Hmm.
I see the entire thing and know exactly how it's all going to work out. I very much bought into, work with the end in mind. And I never really considered alternative plans.
Hmm.
I hate to say, I just was not trusting. At the time, I probably would have told you I'm not trusting of myself
Hmm.
to make things happen at the next level. And my studies in the last couple of years in the Bible have really led me to kind of repent from that, confess that actually what I was saying to God, I didn't trust you to provide for.
Yes. Yes.
And I did not trust your provision in all
Mhm.
this. And, I'm not going to go back and bemoan the fact that probably it would have made a lot of sense for us to take an exit from that business in 2012 or 2013. I believe I still had things to learn. My husband was
Mhm.
to go then. I still had things to learn. And unfortunately, I have to learn things the hard way.
So what do you think you were the most afraid of?
I think security, financial security.
Mhm.
And actually in my head, so there is an old cabin on this property. It is really not livable. There's a little bunkhouse, a cabin, and an RV on the property.
Mhm.
None of those are like long term. You go up there and you live and make those things a home.
Mhm.
But I think in my head, I would think of worst case scenario of, oh my God, what if we lost everything, especially when
Mhm.
like, what if we lose everything? What if we lose our house? What if we lose everything? This is the only place we have to come live, and I'm gonna have to come live at the cabin with absolutely nothing. But God has a sense of humor. I at the farm. I don't call it the cabin anymore because I don't live at the cabin, but I live on the farm with half the things I have. And I'm actually very happy with it. And he's provided extremely well for us. I mean, we're really comfortable. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I just think security was my biggest fear.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now because well everybody sees you all over LinkedIn. And I'll put Beverly's profile link too in the comments, but tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
So I am, as I mentioned earlier, I do work with mid and senior and executive level
Mhm.
professionals with their resumes. I help them. I've scaled my business. I have a team of writers that work with me. So I don't write the resumes myself. My writers write them. They're award winning, multi certified professionals, and we not only do their resumes, but we do the other career marketing documents that they might need. So, cover letters, follow up letters, all those things, a reference sheet, all those things that are branded and they actually go along with their resume. So, the cool thing is when they get ready to apply for a position, they now not only have a resume to send in, but they have a cover letter that we've created for them that they can come in and customize to each position, but it's branded so they see and because you're building a business as well,
Mhm.
how important it is to brand yourself and everything looks like it goes together and
Mhm.
things that we really help them with. And we take what we've done there and we can help them brand themselves on LinkedIn as well by
Mhm.
creating their headline and their about section. Um, that's kind of part of one package. We have another package that not only do we do those things, but we help them with their cover photo that will be very branded and really speak to their personal brand. We come along. It's real important for job seekers to max out their skills on LinkedIn, and we help them select the right skills. And the other thing that we can do on that higher level package is we can come in and actually write their experience sections for them so they have that information that they can go plug into their LinkedIn profile.
Mhm.
Speaks and it's very consistent. It's not necessarily a duplicate. A lot of people mistake, oh, I can just copy and paste my resume into LinkedIn. And that's actually a big no no. You don't want to do that. And especially with the level of clients that we work with, it's really important for them to showcase their leadership and their thought leadership and build a personal brand on a platform like LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that we do is we help them with their job search strategies. We help them. So some of your viewers may not realize we've kind of been conditioned with all the advertising to think that, oh, I can just like go to Indeed and apply online and
Mm-hmm.
I get hired because I hear these ads all the time that tell me how easy it is. And actually, having been on the other side of that, it's not. It does not work that way. It's a pain for both ends. It is a pain for those who are looking for people. I will say, if when you read a job posting on Indeed or Monster or even on LinkedIn, it has gotten to its most competitive stage of the job search by the time you actually read it. And it's just like in networking in everyday life or the whole shop local kind of thing. We want to do business with people we
Mm-hmm.
know. Well,
Right.
companies would prefer to hire someone that's come as a referral to them. And so that's one of the things that I come along and I work with my clients on. How do I find these jobs that never get posted? How do I uncover them? And so that's kind of in a little bit more depth of what I do.
Mm-hmm. So looking back, and you just mentioned it too when you were talking about what you do now, but looking back, can you kind of see a common thread from your very beginning? Like, what did you go to college for?
I went to college for marketing.
Okay.
And, it's so interesting. My whole perspective on the degree has changed a lot because I think probably as you and I were coming up, we were taught to, you've got strengths and weaknesses, and you really need to go fix those weaknesses to make them stronger. And the whole concept of working in your zone of genius and that things should be easy and flow really was non-existent. So I actually started out pre-med.
Mm.
I am mildly dyslexic. That was not a good thing for not a good fit. But I really was very fascinated. I was a runner, and my top competition in high school was a young lady named Berkeley Cooper, and her dad was Dr. Ken Cooper, he was an author of The Aerobics Way,
Yeah.
has a big clinic in the Dallas area that was all about preventive medicine and those kinds of things. And I actually really was fascinated by him. And he had encouraged me, if you want to get into this field, pre med at the time was the best route into it. We now have a lot of other avenues that I could have
Mhm.
broken into it probably in a different way. So when I realized, when I dropped the 5 hour, oh goodness, I'm trying to think which math class it was. It was a big 5 hour math class. I realized this is not going to work out for me. And so I chose marketing because it seemed easy and it was a breeze. Now I realize, well, it just kind of comes naturally for me.
Yeah. Yes.
you know? But at the time, I thought I was just taking the easy way out. And it was like I still graduated in 4 years. I humped
Yeah.
school every summer so I could do it, but I did it. So,
Isn't that fascinating though that you took marketing because you were just done with pre-med and you're like, I'll just run. I don't need to be pre-med to be a runner. And now that's basically what you're doing.
yes,
And
yes.
at the time, back when we were college days, the internet wasn't even a big thing. So it's like, it's really fascinating that, sometimes a career picks you and sometimes you pick a career.
Yeah.
But, you kind of did it in a roundabout way. But I'm even thinking your staffing company, when somebody came to you and said, this is what I have a need for, you already knew what was going to fit that need,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is kind of marketing too. So I think I'm always fascinated with hearing people's stories because there's always a common thread that runs through everything. And you can't see it until you're on the other side of it.
So I would say another common thread for me is I adore connecting people.
Mhm.
favorite thing in the world. And, I think, I've probably already connected with you with people, and it's just, one of the things it lights me up to do that. And so that was one of the pieces in staffing and recruiting that I enjoyed doing. Um, I I honestly did not care so much for the actual work, but what I love to do is go out to the networking and promote my business and then come back and say, okay, this is the recruiter in my team that you need to work with, because
Mhm.
each of our recruiters had a niche that they worked in. And so I would match people up that way, and then they would go and match their candidates up to the jobs that we had available and those kinds of things. So I love that, and it's something that I still do today. My clients that I work with, especially the ones that end up being somewhat local,
Mhm.
are I will all the time reach back out to recruiter friends and send them their resume when we get it done and say, okay, here's someone to look at. And I will make that connection and introduction to them as well. And then just before we hopped on, I am networking with a gentleman that we actually went to the same university, just completely different generations. But he is a recruiter in Alabama, and they specialize in working with Christian companies. And and a lot of my clients are believers, professing believers, and that's kind of at the forefront of what drives them. And so we were, as soon as I get off of this call, I've got to send him a link to my calendar, because we've already had one conversation about a year ago, and we're going to network again to see how we can match up again.
Mhm.
And because he's placing all over the US, and my
Mhm.
clients are now, I've worked from both coasts now. So it's been kind of fun.
That's cool. That is really cool. Can you remember a time, maybe it's recently, maybe it's a while back, maybe it was even when you were a kid, when somebody spoke a word over you? Maybe a mentor, a teacher gave you some encouragement or something that they saw in you that was a gifting or a calling that haven't really thought about, but
Hmm.
now you look back and say, "Oh, wow, they knew something. They saw something I didn't."
Goodness, I think this was before we moved. I think it was before the move. It was. I have a very, very dear friend that we've known each other since the first grade, and she had come up to visit me, and I had this big tub of um, memorabilia of things from when we were in high school, and a lot of stuff. We both were on the yearbook staff together, and I
Mhm,
was the editor, and she was the manager of the ads. And there was a lot of old. I have a lot of old photographs, so we're just plowing through that stuff, having a
mhm,
good time. And we come across this letter, and these two envelopes, and they were from my parents. And apparently, um, our youth minister at the time had a session, and he had the parents write letters to their child.
mhm.
And my mom's was kind of real generic and sweet and a little one liner, but my dad's was powerful. And
Mhm.
so my friend crawled back into that room after I went to bed. She went back into the room. She got the letter, and she stole it, took it home, had it framed in like a shadow box, and sent it back to me.
Oh.
And I boohooed in it, but and I'm trying to remember exactly. I actually got it out of storage not long ago, so I have it in my barn house with me, my shop house. But it's something to the effect of, he appreciated um, how I was like him in being very tenacious, very driven, but also how I put a lot of thought, and I'm not superficial into when I connect with people. It's very I think he put not shallow.
Mhm.
Um, in there, and how much he appreciated, um, that I was very much, I'm missing the word here, but that I spent a lot of time thinking,
Mhm.
and which I think is so interesting because he was an entrepreneur, a very successful. He had several businesses, but a couple of them were very, very successful. And as I study all of that, and he's long since gone,
Mhm.
um, and unfortunately, his last 10 years of his life was really, I I couldn't have had really good conversations with him
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
either. But what I know too about leadership now and people like him is they do spend a lot of time thinking.
Mhm.
And, and so I would say those words he spoke over me. And honestly, I don't remember this letter. Obviously, I kept it. And I had read it before then, but I really did not remember these. So to
And
have,
you might not have had the perspective to really understand that and value it at that point in high school or in elementary, whatever time it was when he wrote it.
so, um, and my dad and I actually were very, very close. We're very much alike. My mom and I were close as well. So, my siblings would say I was spoiled because I was so much younger than them. But
Mhm.
I think I got the benefit of having parents that were mature and had been around the block a time or two.
Yeah.
So we're better at setting boundaries with.
Yeah. And it's when you were talking about that, looking for a word, I kept thinking of introspective,
Mhm.
maybe, something like that. It's interesting you said that because I had designed a free resource for busy women. I'm a planner and I like writing things down. I have a digital, my digital calendar and everything, but I like, writing things down. It helps me process and remember things. So I just designed this really quick little planner and like I said, to help busy women be able to just, organize their thoughts and think about things. And it's got three things that you need to get done today, and a phrase or a quote to live by today, what I did for self care today, and what I'm excited about today. And it was kind of interesting what happened because some of my clients and people on my email list had downloaded that, and then I started getting feedback from them, and they said I've been using the planner for about a week or 10 days, and I realized that I always have three or more things on the have to get to today things, and there's nothing on my self-care, there's nothing I'm excited about, and I really don't have a quote or phrase that I want to live by for the day. And
Mhm.
it was kind of an eye-opening thing where, it caused them to be introspective and said, wait a second, something's out of balance here. Something's wrong with this picture. So it was, not what I intended it to do, but, that's kind of what happened. So I thought that was really interesting. And I've been talking to quite a few of them about using those for journal prompts.
Yeah.
And, instead of coming up with your three things that have to get done today, do the other sections first and then go to the three things that have to get done today. So I'll drop a link if anybody wants to download that and see what it's about. But it was really, really interesting. I didn't intend it for that to be the purpose, but that's what it turned out to be. So, Beverly, tell us too. You have a checklist that you have available. So I did drop the link. I dropped your profile link for LinkedIn in the comments, and I also put the checklist in there accidentally. So go ahead and tell us about it.
So I as I delved into my new career, obviously I'd been on LinkedIn for quite a while previously, just nature of the business, and what I really came to understand is most of the people I am working with are not really using LinkedIn to their fullest. So I created
Mhm.
this checklist. It's called the Your LinkedIn Success Blueprint Checklist,
Mhm.
and it is just basically the things if you are seeking a job, no matter what level you are. So you don't have to be a professional. I mean, like a mid or senior manager or anything like that. This will work for anybody. these are the steps, the exact steps you need to take. And then in that checklist will be links to videos that I have done that
Mm,
will walk you through further of the process. So I don't just say, okay, go do your profile. And then you're kind of going, but I
yeah.
forgot to do my profile. I have a link for that.
Hmm.
And you can just go watch the video and I will walk you through. I think in the one on the profile actually did a pre-recorded one where I shared my screen and walked you through on my LinkedIn profile some things to do. And then I talk about how to, I teach on that checklist how to get found by the recruiters, how to become more visible, and how to interact on LinkedIn. So it's really valuable. You'll get emails to support you on that. And the email
Hmm.
have some additional videos as well, because after I created that, of course, LinkedIn has to go in and change some of the rules. So I've made some additional videos that are very helpful to that as well.
That's great. I love stuff like that because it's like, don't tell me how to do it, show me how to do it. That's just my learning style. So I love the videos and stuff. That's really helpful.
Like me too. I mean, it's like that whole plan. I want to see what are the things I need to do and then be able to check them off the box. And so when I made this checklist, I really don't start trying to build your connections until
Mhm.
you get the profile taken care of. You
Right.
if you do that, if you don't have that profile taken care of first, you're going to miss out, and you really need to work on now. That's not to say that it can't evolve, and it should evolve as you get more comfortable on the platform and things like that, but you really need to have what you're all about, and the recruiters, can really find you better because they're looking for you, and that kind of plays into that whole hidden jobs. And so again, these are some things too that I coach on. So if that's things that someone just wants LinkedIn coaching, I am happy to help you with that as well.
Great. Great. So are you open to connections if people want to connect with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So look up Beverly's profile, check her out. And if you have any questions, if anybody's watching this on replay, hit hashtag replay so we know you're seeing it on replay. And then if you have any questions at all, either send Beverly a message or put it in the comments and we'll keep the conversation going. But yeah, she's just a wealth of knowledge and she's very, very generous. We've had lots of chats, we go back and forth and I'll be like, Beverly, how do I do this? And she'll be like, hey, Valerie, how do I do this? So we swap info all the time. So anything else you want to add, Beverly? Anything else you've got coming up or going on or?
I will say that September is Update Your Resume Month, and
Ah,
for some possible promotions on that and just information as to why, even if you're not a job seeker, you probably need to have an updated resume on file. We'll be covering that a little bit, and I do have some videos on my YouTube channel about that as well. So I will say my YouTube channel, if you want to go back and watch any of those videos, is at Beverly Smith Resumes. So you can find me there as well. But yeah, this has been fun. If you're thinking about making a pivot, I would just encourage you to step out there and don't be afraid. Don't be like I was and say I can't do this, but just trust the process. I look back and I see how God was preparing me with. I had some online side hustles in the past, so I had a pretty good experience, knowledge of online. I also had taken a resume class prior to any of this. So I had those things that were preparing me. So if God puts anything on your heart to go and do it, because while it may not make sense now,
mhm.
it or what you're thinking you're going to use it for now, it may play into your someday.
Yes. So you don't have to have it all figured out.
Nope, nope.
And for people like me, that's actually better.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, like I said, I've been doing some studies on that. And I think that trying to have everything figured out beforehand is really about the worst thing that you can do.
Mhm.
And it's just like you don't have to have all the pieces, because what you're thinking of as the end may be so small compared to what God's got for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Step out there and don't put it off. I mean, my goodness,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that for whatever reason I heard it differently. And I didn't wait another 5 or 6 years to do this.
Mhm.
I've got a friend that was kind of a mentor for me in the staffing industry, and she's finally getting out at the age of 70. And, um, she probably should have exited 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And um, kind of that same mentality. So don't do it.
Yeah.
Go pivot.
And two things, not only don't wait, start moving. And it doesn't mean you have to quit your job today, and just jump in and have no idea what's going on. Start making little changes. And that's what I said, like with that checklist that you can get a hold of. It's like you start thinking about what does excite me. And
Right?
then you start seeing a pattern and you can start making some moves in that direction. Make sure you're putting more of that into your life. But the flip side of that is it's never too late.
No,
Don't think, oh, I'm 50 or 60 or, whatever, 70, and think, oh, it's just too late for me. It's never too late.
I will encourage everyone too that is over 50 that is watching this. The workforce is aging.
Mhm.
There's not as many of the younger generation. And so you may decide, I'm going to retire from my career that I've done for the last 30, 35, 40 years, but I still want to work. And I actually work with a lot of clients that are doing that. And um, there's opportunities. And yes, ageism is a thing, and we can work with you on how to address that. That's one of the things we do work on in our resumes. But it should not be a hindrance to you. It's in your mind. If you
Mhm.
believe that there's opportunities out there for you, there are. And I'm telling you from someone who has struggled to find people to fill job positions. There are
Mhm.
opportunities out there. So, a career pivot that may be your someday. Maybe your someday is just to go work in a completely different industry. And we can help you do that. And we can help you address those challenges of someone saying, hey, I know you're used to making XYZ and this job only pays this. We can help you address that. So,
Mhm. Cool. So get on LinkedIn, connect with Beverly, connect with me. And next week, on Friday, my interview is going to be with my friend Tamala, who was working in finance at a large home builder. And every time I talked to her, she was kind of downcast about her job. And she's a brilliant baker. She had a side hustle called Bucketless Cakes. And finally, she left her corporate career. She's working on her cake business and she discovered that she loves teaching. So she's teaching culinary classes out of her house. So you don't want to miss that one. So thanks for joining me and for joining Beverly. And if you have any questions, just message us and we're looking forward to connecting you. Bye.